To September 30th, 2020, President Donald Trump's tax returns got released this past weekend, causing a huge uproar on the left. And Joe Biden and Donald Trump faced off in their first debate last night. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Split the Difference, hosted by Austin Taylor. As you know, we like to take a look at things from the left, take a look at things at the right side of the aisle, and try to find that sweet truth in between. And let me tell you, this week is going to be great. The show is going to be great. We've had an awesome news cycle the past couple of days. We've had all kinds of crazy stuff happening. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to jump right into it. We've got a bunch of really cool stuff. So first story today is going to be actually about what happened. It broke on this past Sunday night, but it's about President Donald Trump's tax return. So this was a huge story. It was released by the New York Times on Sunday night. And let me tell you, the left has been going wild. Was it everything that they wanted and more? Absolutely. Did it finally prove that Donald Trump was the big, awful, mean, terrible, horrible person that they always thought that he was? Of course it did. Let me read you some of these headlines right here. This is from the New York Times. Trump's taxes show chronic losses in years of income tax avoidance. Next one is from CNN. Tax bombshell reveals Trump's image is a sham. This one from The Atlantic. Trump is just another moocher. Oh. All right, so let's hop in. We're going to take a look at Trump's response here to all this, which was pretty just standard Trump fashion, right? So let's hop in and take a look.
It's totally fake news. Made up, fake. We went through the same stories. You could have asked me the same questions 4 years ago. I had to litigate this and talk about it. Totally fake news.
Totally
Actually,
fake news.
I paid tax, and you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time. They're doing their assessment. We've been negotiating for a long time. Things get settled, like in the IRS. But right now, when you're under audit, you don't do it. You don't do that. So we're under audit, but I will tell you that I look forward to releasing that. I look forward to releasing many things. I'm going to release many things, and people will be really shocked. But the New York Times has been doing fake story after fake story.
Fake story after fake story. So Donald Trump obviously comes out, denies everything, which is interesting to me that he would choose to deny everything, although that's, I guess, not very surprising. Donald Trump pretty much just denies whatever it is straight off the bat. So it looks like the Dems finally have what they've been waiting for, right? The New York Times released all these tax returns for the past, I don't think it was past couple years, past 10 years or so, a couple decades worth of stuff. They finally released it. They felt like this was the smoking gun. It was obviously done right before Donald Trump is going into a debate on Tuesday night with Vice President Joe Biden. They wanted to be able to stir up as much controversy as possible. They came for Trump, and the social media and the news media outrage has been unrelenting this week. So many people on the left are angry because of the taxes that Donald Trump, I guess, did pay and also didn't pay, right? So they're angry because he spent about $70,000 over the course of a couple years on just his hair, getting haircuts, which is hilarious. All like 5 of his hairs, he was getting cut and spending $70,000 on it. They're also angry because in 2016 and in 2017, he paid supposedly $750 in federal income taxes, which they deem is way too low. So it's obvious it was a last-minute hit against Trump. I mean, come on, releasing it 2 days before the debate. Joe Biden, immediately after hearing this, within like 30 minutes or an hour, released full videos basically bashing Trump for his tax returns. Joe Biden totally knew this was coming out. New York Times had to have called him and let him know like a week ahead of time. Hey, man, we better go ahead and get some campaign ads together because we're going to be releasing a bombshell about Trump's taxes. So right now, we have a whole bunch of people on the left that are angry at Trump for doing what every other American does. The last time that I checked, every other American hires a CPA. The only reason a CPA or an accountant has a job is because in order to understand the federal tax code well enough to be able to help you pay as little as possible to the government, you have to have a 4-year degree, you have to be board certified, and you have to take an excruciatingly difficult three to 4 part test, right? It is outrageous, but that's how difficult our tax code is, right? So Donald Trump is doing what every other American is doing, and that's paying as little amount in taxes as he possibly can. That's the whole reason why anybody uses TurboTax, or anybody uses Accountant, or anybody uses somebody to help them file their taxes. It's all because you don't want to pay more money to the government. That seems so obvious to me, but to me, the biggest thing here is it should be a huge red flag that a billionaire is able to pay $750 in income taxes for 2 years in a row. That is not a good sign. And to me, what that says is that your federal income tax code is not good if there are billionaires that are paying so little money in taxes, okay? And we all know why this is. It's because the people that are writing the tax codes are the congressmen and women, and they're in the pockets of people that have a lot of money. And a lot of the congressmen and women have a lot of money too. They would prefer to pay less taxes. And so in order to pay less taxes, they make the tax code incredibly complicated, and they put a ton of loopholes in. So to me, it seems obvious that Donald Trump should want to pay as little in federal taxes as he possibly can. But apparently to the left, that is not an obvious thing. So there's two sides of this. There's the left side that are, in terms of taxes, the left is always saying the rich need to pay their fair share, right? They need to be paying more money in taxes. It's ridiculous that we have billionaires that are paying so little in taxes, and they should be paying way, way more. They should be paying more than the bartenders. AOC came out and tweeted that Donald Trump paid less in taxes in 2016 and 2017 than she did when she was working as a bartender. That's terrible. I totally agree. That's awful. That definitely shouldn't happen. But then again, you have on the right side of the aisle. The right side of the aisle says 20% of the country already pay over 70% of the taxes. The rich people don't need to have their taxes raised because their taxes are already high enough. The solution is, guess where? Right there in the middle. So I personally do not think that we need to raise taxes higher than what they are. What we need to do is make people actually pay the taxes that they owe. Meaning we have to close all of these loopholes that these billionaires are able to legally use to pay a small amount in taxes. Now, I understand there are going to be people that have large businesses where they need to write off expenses, where for Trump, is a great example of it because he's a real estate mogul. He's got a lot of money in real estate. You can write off so many things in real estate investing that you can't write off in multiple other types of investing. What we need to do is close a lot of those loopholes. Make it so it's more difficult for the billionaires to skimp out of paying taxes. If you don't want Donald Trump to be paying $750 a year in taxes, well then maybe don't give him so many loopholes through Congress and through the federal tax code that would allow him to be able to do it. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. I'm not going to get into and dive into the entirety of the federal tax code because this is not the time or the place to do it. But it should be a red flag for us. We should all be able to come together and say, it's a little bit suspect that we have people like Warren Buffett has come out and said multiple times. There have been times where he's paid a lower effective tax rate than his secretary has. That's not okay because Warren Buffett is worth billions and billions of dollars. It doesn't mean that his secretary paid more taxes, but she paid a higher rate on her taxes than Warren Buffett did. This happens all the time. It's because there's plenty of different loopholes. There's plenty of different ways that when you have a lot of money, you can hire a very expensive accountant to, tweak the numbers a little bit, move money where it needs to go, know these different ways around paying taxes, and you can pay a much lower tax rate. So it should be extremely telling that people in America are upset by seeing that Trump paid a small amount in taxes. What that tells me is that, one, they don't understand how the federal tax code works, especially not income tax. And two, They don't realize that a lot of these loopholes have been put in place in previous administrations. It's not like Donald Trump went in there and put in a tax code that was going to help him out in previous years. That's not how it works, right? It was Barack Obama. It was George Bush. These presidents before him, especially Barack Obama, had a couple of different loopholes that he threw into the tax code that would allow billionaires to be able to write off a whole bunch of stuff. So what does this mean for Donald Trump? What does this mean for the election? I'm going to go out on a limb and say pretty much nothing. Even though it was a huge bombshell story that broke, the supporters of Trump aren't going anywhere, especially not 1 month before the election when an incredibly partisan newspaper drops a story that is hating on Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done a very good job of discrediting a lot of the left-wing media because, or at least to his supporters, he's discredited them, calling them fake news, whatever it is that he does. His supporters are not going to look at that and be like, you know what? This totally changed my mind about Donald Trump. I can't believe that he didn't pay all that much money in taxes. I'm not going to vote for him. That's not going to happen. If you like Donald Trump at this point, you know that everything is baked into the cake. Donald Trump is an eccentric billionaire in your eyes, so you're going to be looking at him and being like, I'd be trying to pay as little in taxes as I possibly could too. So it's not going to do anything against Trump necessarily, probably not going to change a lot of minds, but it is very telling that we probably do have a problem in the United States if the tax code is so complicated that billionaires can pay that little amount in taxes. So, next up, big story. Story number 2, the debate. And this is, the juicy stuff. This is what everybody's been waiting for. I know that all of my listeners were just staying up late last night, just like I did. Couldn't wait to hear the debate. You had a good drink in your hand. You were excited. You thought that these two bellwether, intellectual men were going to just be going at it, and you couldn't wait to hear the incredible points that they brought up. I was the exact same way. I totally understand. So we're going to get into this, and we're going to talk through all the hard-hitting stuff that I'm sure you all want to hear. If, by chance, you didn't want to watch the debate because you thought it was going to be boring or just two old men yelling at each other, you actually would have been correct. But I watched it, so I'm going to give you the highlights now. So Biden and Trump went at it. Overall, pretty terrible debate. Not a whole lot went on. I don't know any more about Joe Biden's policy or Donald Trump's policies than I did beforehand. What I do know is that Biden got bullied for 90 straight minutes. Donald Trump interrupted him every time he opened his mouth. Donald Trump came after him, calling him, it literally resorted to name calling multiple times between them. Joe Biden interrupted Trump plenty of times as well, but Donald Trump came after him. From the very beginning, as soon as Joe Biden finished his 2 minutes of uninterrupted time, which very rarely went uninterrupted, Donald Trump started just hounding him, just left and right, throwing punches, not holding anything back, interrupting every single thing Joe Biden said. So it started off with the Supreme Court pick. This is actually something that I think Trump, he got some points on. He got a couple of good hits in. He pointed out a couple things that were actually useful for him. So it started out with Trump, started out with the Supreme Court pick. He had his 2 minutes uninterrupted. Then Biden had his 2 minutes uninterrupted. And Trump's whole case was basically, I was elected president, not for 3 years, not for 2 years, but for 4 years. My 4 years isn't up yet. So I have every right constitutionally to pick who's going to be the next Supreme Court justice to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. He's not wrong. He's 100% correct on that. There's not a whole lot that Joe Biden could say against it outside of he thinks that the American people need to have a voice or a say in the seat. I see where Joe Biden's coming from, but that's a pretty weak argument. It doesn't really hold a lot of water when Donald Trump is standing there saying, listen, I've got the Senate, I have the presidency, we're going to step forward, we're going to put forth a nomination, and we're going to try and get her through. Another thing that I think that Trump did well was actually not just hounding Joe Biden just yet about fighting against it, but instead kind of taking a step to the side and basically pushing Amy Coney Barrett's resume and who she was. I thought this was good because Amy Coney Barrett really in a lot of ways is she's decent. She's pretty good. It's not like she's a terrible nomination. There have been multiple people on the left and on the right side of the aisle and a lot of centrists that have come out and said that Barrett is a pretty good nomination. She's a smart woman. She's very, very well accomplished. She's a mother. She has 7 kids, 2 of them adopted. She's a good person. And the way that she's been a juror or a judge in the past is she has been a constitutional originalist. She's unashamedly for the Constitution, unashamedly for America, and she's not a bad person, right? Even Joe Biden admitted that. He said that he doesn't have a problem with Amy Coney Barrett, but he more has a problem with the fact that Trump is trying to push it through in the short amount of time that he's trying to push it through. A big hit that Trump had here was in the middle of Joe Biden talking, or actually in the middle of one of his little monologues that Trump ended up getting. He ended up saying, well, I'll have a lot of time after the election as well, as you know. Basically implying that he's not going to lose. Kind of a good little sucker punch that he got in there. But the biggest thing to come out of this specific segment was actually not something that Trump said. It was something that Biden wouldn't say. So Chris Wallace came after Biden because he was like, hey, there's been a lot of stuff happening on the left, a lot of talk happening on the left that you want and that the Democrats want to end the filibuster and to pack the Supreme Court. Joe Biden, what do you have to say about that? He literally would not answer the question. He refused to answer whether or not he wanted to pack the court and whether or not he wanted to end the filibuster. Trump immediately came after him on that. And rightfully so. I mean, those are some big issues that need to be hashed out and need to be talked about. I mean, you're talking about changing the norms within the legislature and the norms within the judicial branch completely from the way that they've been for the past over 150 years, right? So Donald Trump came after him and was like, the only reason why you won't talk about this right now and you won't say whether or not you want to do it is because you're kowtowing to the left side of the aisle, which prompted Joe Biden then to say that he is the Democratic Party, which I was kind of surprised with. But, I mean, I don't know that I agree with that Joe Biden is the Democratic Party, but he came out and showed a little bit of strength, flexed his muscles a little bit, which, good for Joe Biden. It's not something you normally see out of him. So, not answering that question, though, was a huge fail for Joe. There's a lot of people in this country that are extremely worried about power being concentrated or controlled because of manipulations by one party that may lead to way more power and way more control in another party later. That's one of the reasons why the founding fathers wrote the Constitution the way that they did, and they structured the government the way that they did. They didn't want the government to become too big, and they didn't want the government to control people. There's a reason why the government is set up the way that it is. And packing the Supreme Court and ending a filibuster, there's great ways to be able to just alter and change the way that the founding fathers had things structured. So the next topic they had was coronavirus, COVID-19. This started out in Joe Biden's side of the court. So he started out, first thing that he says, Donald Trump is responsible for killing 200,000 people. We only have 5% of the world population in the United States, but 20% of the deaths. Came out swinging right off the bat. Everyone knew that he would. A lot of people are disappointed in the way that Donald Trump has handled the coronavirus over this past year. Some rightfully so. Some of the stuff is Monday night quarterbacking. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're coming through and you're saying that Donald Trump did everything wrong, when you have the gift of hindsight, you kind of have to take what you have to say for a grain of salt. But Joe Biden came out swinging. He hit him pretty hard on this one. Trump did not have a ton to say about it. I think one of the biggest things is Trump came out and was basically like, all of this is China's fault. It's the China virus. It's the China plague. We don't have any idea we don't know how many people have died in China or Russia or India because they don't give fair numbers, which is true. He said that Biden didn't want him to close travel to China, but Trump decided to close travel to China. And Trump lauded that he had done a really good job, but if Joe Biden had been in office, millions and millions would have died. Obviously, we have no idea if that's true because Joe Biden wasn't in office. President Trump was in office. And right now, we do have one of the highest death rates in the world. We do have the most deaths by population size. It definitely is not good. And people are kind of disappointed in the way things are going on. Trump spent a lot of time crapping on Joe Biden and the fake media, where Joe Biden tried to spend most of his time focusing in on what actually happened within this past year. One of the big things that I think Joe Biden said here was that Trump was lying and that all Trump does was lie, which I think kind of plays into a sentiment that a good amount of Americans have. Not a lot of people look at Donald Trump and look at him as a trustworthy source of news or information. And that's not a good thing to be viewed as the president. It's not. Somebody that lies frequently is not how you want to be viewed as the president of the United States. So Joe Biden came swinging on it. He also kind of tied back in a little bit of the stuff they went back and forth on within the Supreme Court pick, which was talking about Obamacare, because that's a huge, huge worry of the Democrats, is that Amy Coney Barrett is going to get in and rule that Obamacare is unconstitutional. That's a fair argument. She absolutely may come in and do that. So Joe Biden was like, we have 20 million people that are right now enrolled in Obamacare, and in the middle of a pandemic, you're trying to push somebody into the Supreme Court that is going to rule that Obamacare is not constitutional. You're going to take 20 million people off of their insurance right in the middle of a pandemic. You don't care about people. You're killing everybody, Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't have a huge argument against that. He doesn't have a plan for healthcare. He's kind of shown over and over again that he doesn't have much of a plan for healthcare at all. He kind of faltered a little bit. Donald Trump then just went on to name calling and being mean. By the end of it, Donald Trump was saying that we will have a vaccine very, very soon. Didn't give an actual timeline. And then he spent about 30 seconds to a minute calling Biden literally dumb. He literally said, "You are dumb," which not what you want to see out of your president. Definitely not something that a lot of people are going to take super kindly to. Joe Biden is just kind of like your standard creepy Uncle Joe. He's just kind of chilling there. He's just an old guy. Don't be beating on some old dude, Donald Trump. That's not fair. That's not fun. Poor old Joe. It's not going to look good for Donald Trump. So calling Biden dumb, I don't know if that was the best move in the world. So next thing to move on to is the economy. And I think Donald Trump got some points here, I will say. I mean, if there's anything that Donald Trump knows and touts and is good at, it's the economy. The economy was moving and shaking before 2020 with the shutdowns, and Donald Trump made sure to remind people of that. He came out swinging, basically saying, we built the greatest economy in history. He had his hand out. We built the greatest economy in history. And he did it. He's saying that we had to shut it all down because of the, quote, China plague. And then he started touting how the economy is growing much faster now than it did after the previous recession, which is technically true. Donald Trump, the reason why a lot of people like Donald Trump is not because he has a lot of decorum. It's because he built a good economy, right? Well, Joe Biden, of course, wanted to take credit for Trump's economy, even though he wasn't in office when it happened. He said that all of that was a result of the work that he did and that Barack Obama did. And he said that you can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis, which was an interesting take because he still wants shutdowns. So didn't really make a lot of sense. Donald Trump came after him pretty hard on that. Basically came in swinging like, listen, man, you still want the economy to be shut down. You still want people to be shut up in their houses. You still want people to not be able to leave, not be able to make money, and we're not going to be able to have an economy if you do that. If it's up to you, people are going to be losing money left and right. And he's not wrong, right? The longer that you shut the economy down and don't allow people to go out of their houses and go to restaurants and do what they want to do, the worse it's going to get. Trump came and was like, listen, I don't have a problem with social distancing. I trust the American people to social distance. I trust the American people to wear their face masks, to be responsible. And he was like, I've been having outdoor rallies and haven't seen much of a problem at all. Joe Biden didn't have a lot to answer for it. The big thing at the end was Wallace hit Biden with, what is your plan for the economy? Biden pretty much had nothing there. Pretty much had nothing. He started throwing out some random facts about, with my economic plan, we're going to be bringing in X amount more jobs than Trump would with his economic plan, or blah, 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 blah. And it's like, where are you talking? Like, You're sitting here talking about openly raising taxes for corporations, openly raising taxes for people that own businesses, openly raising taxes for wealthy in the United States, but yet at the same time, we're going to be booming and growing a lot more jobs, and they're going to be, all these corporations are going to be employing more people. That's just not how basic economics works. So, Donald Trump, I think, won the whole economy pitch, which is what a lot of people expected. There was still way too much cutting off. There was still way too much going back and forth. He pretty much just took Joe Biden's microphone and beat him over the head with it for like 10 minutes of that segment. So, the next big segment was violence and protests. So this one is where I think Trump lost a lot. The violence and protests, and then the law and order, which is kind of what the segment that they got into next, but I'm going to kind of blend them together because they're very, very similar. So Donald Trump came after Biden basically saying that he doesn't want law and order. He's okay with the violence. He's okay with the protests. He wants for this stuff, the rioting, to continue to happen. He hasn't called it out. And Biden hit back pretty hard. So Biden called back, or actually it was Chris Wallace that called back and was like, well, Joe Biden, in your opening campaign video, which is true. If you remember back, if you can think back way, 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 way back, like 3 years ago, feels like an eternity ago, when Joe Biden came out and announced his campaign, he released this video, this viral video, and it was Joe Biden. And it was all these images, slow, still images moving across the screen and sad music playing in the background. And it was the Charlottesville protests. If you remember back in 2017, there were Black Lives Matter protesters and there were white supremacists, both of them marching in Charlottesville. And a young lady was killed in the middle of the protest, hit by a car. And Joe Biden created his video basically with Donald Trump standing up on a podium saying there were good people on both sides. That is not a good look for Donald Trump. And it is something that Joe Biden is going to continue to play over and over and over again. Joe Biden is going to be on this shtick of Donald Trump he winks and he nods at the alt-right. He doesn't play fair game here. Right? Like he doesn't do what he needs to do to call out white supremacy. And I'm sorry, you can get upset if I say this, but Joe Biden's not wrong. You actually saw later on, Chris Wallace asked Donald Trump straightforward to condemn white supremacy, and Donald Trump didn't do it. He didn't. He very, very quickly was like, yes, who do you want me to call out? Who do you want me to call out? Yes, I'll condemn it, but what specific people? The people that I really need to be calling out are Antifa. Antifa is the one that's bad. Donald Trump's right. Antifa is bad. But to not specifically call out white supremacy when Donald Trump knows that that is something that people have been angry with him about for a long time, just not a good look. It doesn't look good at all. So Joe Biden came out with his normal thing of like, it's all about equality in America. We need equity. He talked about George Floyd and about how Trump came out of his bunker under the White House and they fired tear gas on protesters, peaceful protesters outside of the White House. That's kind of true, kind of meh, But his main point is that Trump is divisive, that Trump is terrible, right? And Chris Wallace asked him specifically, is there a separate and unequal justice system for blacks in America? And Joe Biden unequivocally said yes. And he went on to say that there's a full level of systemic racism purposefully putting down black people in America, which is going to win him points on the far left for sure. I don't know that is going to win a ton of points for moderates and definitely won't be winning any Trump supporters over, but I don't know if Biden really is trying to win over any Trump supporters. So Donald Trump then went through and basically started hounding him about law and order. Listen, I want to be able to send in the National Guard. I want to be able to protect the people of Kenosha, the people of Portland, the people of Seattle, the people of Detroit, Chicago, Washington. But people won't let me send in the National Guard, and it's all because of Democratic-run cities. Your counterparts, the people that are in your party, are destroying America because they're allowing all this rioting and horrible stuff to happen. There is a certain amount of truth to that. Donald Trump is not wrong when he says that Portland is literally is being burned, like it's being razed. People are protesting nonstop there. They have been for the past couple of months, like 3 or 4 months. They're burning stuff down. It's not good. Antifa is running wild in the streets, It is not good. So Donald Trump he hits on a couple good points that Americans, they're tired of seeing the protests. They're tired of seeing the riots. Well, most people are okay with peaceful protests. Like, everybody's all right if you go out and protest peacefully, but the rioting, the burning, the looting, it's terrible, and it's time for it to stop. And Joe Biden didn't have a huge argument against that outside of, we need to push for equality, and we need to push for things to, for things to change at a systemic level. I agree with Joe Biden. I also agree with Donald Trump. Most people agree with both of them. It's okay to say we need to have law enforcement and we need to have law and order in order to control all this rioting and looting and terrible stuff, while at the same time acknowledging America needs some pretty systemic change. There's absolutely problems that are going on. There absolutely is difficulty that we need to address. So they were kind of obviously just pointing fingers and blaming each other, but it ended up getting into Biden kind of laying out a little bit of distancing himself from the far left and the far left Black Lives Matter mantra of abolishing the police completely, which I think did a really good job for Joe Biden. So one of the huge arguments against Democratic leadership is that the Democrats want to abolish all the police, that they want to cut all the funding for all police departments. And Joe Biden basically came out and was like, that's not true. I don't believe in that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's what we need to do. What we need to do is fund the police better, give the police more resources, try to have the police more funded and more supported at a community level, and we need the police to be in the communities helping people out. That's exactly correct. That's how we solve this problem. We give more funding to the police. We give them more training. We help them out. We have psychiatrists there to help them when they go through difficult things. And we have the police in the community. Donald Trump just wanted to talk about sending in National Guard. That's not a good look, and not a lot of people are loving that. So it kind of finished up with Joe Biden saying, I actually have a plan for it. Donald Trump doesn't have a plan outside of wanting to send in troops. And that was a tough thing, I think, for Donald Trump to kind of come back from. So Trump hounding on and hitting Antifa really hard. Nobody really likes Antifa, but him not condemning white supremacy openly, like, all he has to do is say, I don't like white supremacists. White supremacy is terrible. Hear me clearly. I am not backed by, nor do I want to be backed by, and I do not back white supremacy. That's all he has to do. He wouldn't. And, you can say what you want. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be donning a KKK hood anytime soon. I don't think Donald Trump is a white supremacist. I don't think he hates black people. I don't think he hates Jewish people or Hispanics. I don't think that. But he's got to stop winking and nodding at the alt-right. It's not good. It's terrible. And he can very easily stop that. And he refuses to do it. So, with all that having said, they finished up at the very end. Last subject was the candidates' records. I'm not going to really get into that one all that much because it was pretty much just them bickering back and forth at each other and calling each other names. All in all, top to bottom, high-level overview. You didn't miss a ton if you missed the debate. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people that are going to be swayed either way. If you're on the left side of the aisle, you're going to stay there. If you're on the right, you're probably going to stay there. And all these people in the middle that I'm talking to, that I am in, that I am looking around and saying, why is all this crazy stuff happening? All these people in the middle are sitting here like, I really wish that I would have heard what their policies are. Instead of Joe Biden calling Donald Trump a clown or Donald Trump calling Joe Biden dumb, I would really like to hear what some of their solutions are. Didn't get that, which is just so typical. So we will have to see how the vice presidential debate goes. Hopefully that will be better. There won't be as much name calling. There won't be as much back and forth about calling each other dumb or discrediting each other. Hopefully it will be actual policy. And I'm very much looking forward to that. I think that both Mike Pence and Kamala Harris are both incredibly intelligent people. I don't agree with all of their policies for either of them, but they both seem to be at least a bit more respectful than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So we'll have to see how all that ends up turning out. So last thing that we're going to do, we covered both of our stories. Now it's time to talk through a little bit of something that made me smile. Always want to end on a positive note because in this show, our goal is not to be divisive, but to just look at both sides of the issues, try to come together, try to create a community and is going to be uplifting and going to be good. So this article comes from the goodnewsnetwork.org. The reason why I like it, well, I'll go ahead and read the headline for you first. Americans say that COVID-19 has given them a newfound appreciation of nature. Would you look at that? Awesome. I love it. I hope that this type of stuff, that getting out in nature, enjoying national parks, enjoying hanging out with your family and friends outside leads to much more funding in the national park system, the state park system. It allows for much more conservation. It allows for maybe more hunting, maybe for more fishing, maybe for more people going out and enjoying themselves and getting some vitamin D. I mean, people need that, especially during this time of a pandemic. So at the beginning of the pandemic, they came out and basically shut everything down, wouldn't let anybody even leave their house, and they realized very, very quickly that that was not the best thing to do. Well, now a poll has just been done that 6 out of 10 people have enjoyed going outside more, that they want to go outside more and frequent the outdoors. I think that's great. Nature's a beautiful thing. We should all be working to conserve it, all be working to make sure that nature is taken care of. And no, I don't mean this in any kind of crazy political way. I literally just mean this in the sense of, we have a beautiful gift of nature and we get to enjoy that. So go out, enjoy being outside. If the weather's good where you're at, I know right here in South Carolina, this is like the perfect time of the year. It's coming up into the best season of the year in fall. It's going to be a nice, 65, 70 degrees, hopefully. Beautiful sunny days. So get out and enjoy that and have a good time. Get some fresh air. We need it, especially with all this craziness going on right now. So with that being said, that's the show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming and hanging out, having fun. I want to ask that you go and check me out on YouTube at Split the Difference. Check me out on Instagram, Split the Difference Podcast. Hit me up. Shoot me an email. Love to hear from you. Love to hear some of your thoughts, some of the feedback, some of the things that you thought was great for from the presidential debate, and some things that you thought were not so great at all. Remember, do your best to keep a level head. All right, stay reasonable, and always split the difference. This is Austin Taylor.